Hello everyone. So this is the third video of video series Chess Opening Theories. In this video, I will tell you about the Ruy Lopez, the closed variations we are going to discuss in this. I'm going to tell you about this with the help of five variations that you can see. That is the closed variation, then Marshall attack, which is very famous at higher levels, then Chigorin, then Breyer variation, and Smyslov variation. So these five variations we are going to discuss, and I will tell you the theoretical lines of all the variations from white and black side both. So let's start with the closed variation first. So closed variation starts with e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5, pawn a6, bishop to a4, knight f6, then castles, bishop e7, rook e1, b5, bishop b3, pawn to d6, then pawn c3, then castles by black, then pawn h3. The plan for white is he don't want to allow this bishop g4 move, so that's why h3. So knight d7, then pawn to d4 attacking in the center, then bishop f6, pawn a4, bishop to b7, knight a3, pawn takes, then knight a5 attacking this bishop. So bishop comes back here on c2, then pawn to b4, knight back to b1, then rook to e8, bishop f4, and pawn to c5 moves. So as you can see already that black has tried to regain towards the center. He is attacking in the center because white had the complete center, but this position is currently equal for both. As you can see, there is one weakness that black is carrying, that is this d6 pawn. And in terms of the pieces, this knight is little bit awkwardly placed. Otherwise the black's position is very fine. In terms of white, if we will talk, this knight is not developed. The idea could be to go knight to d2, knight f1, and knight g3. This is like a very common maneuver in the Ruy Lopez openings. Okay, so this is the closed variation that you can play, and it is equal for both the sides. Now let's look at the second variation. So this second variation is the Marshall attack, and it is very common at the higher levels. So I think it's a must know variation for everyone. So let's see what is the theoretical line of this. So it is e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5, a6, bishop e4, knight f6, castles, bishop e7, rook e1, pawn to b5, and here after bishop to b3, in the closed one we have seen that there was a move pawn to d6, but here in the Marshall attack the move is black castles. Then it continues with pawn c3, pawn d5, like directly going towards the center. As here you can see black sacrifices a pawn here. So pawn takes, knight takes, then knight takes e5 pawn, knight takes, rook takes. Now pawn to c6, then pawn d4, bishop to d6, rook back to e1, queen h4. So as you can see already black has started to attack, as he has sacrificed one pawn, and in return he is getting a lot of attack. So pawn to g3, because there was the pressure on this h2 pawn. So queen h3, bishop e3, bishop to g4, queen d3, trying to go on f1, so just to neutralize the queen. So then rook a to e8. Currently this position is equal, but as you can see already black is having lot of attack here, and but in return white is having one extra pawn. It's nothing like white cannot defend it. So many games have been played from this position and have resulted in like all the three results: win for white, win for black, and so many times draw as well. So this is the equal position, and if you are a tactically good player, so then I would recommend you to try this variation from black side especially, and it will be very helpful for you. So this was the second variation, that was Marshall attack. Now let's go back and now let's look at the third variation. Third variation starts with pawn to e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5, pawn a6, bishop a4, knight f6, castles, bishop e7, rook e1, pawn b5, bishop to b3, pawn d6, pawn c3, castles by black, then h3. And here in the closed variation we have seen knight to d7 move. So in the Chigorin variation, the move is knight to a5. Here he goes bishop to c2, pawn to c5, pawn d4, queen c7, knight b d2, pawn takes, bishop to b7, then pawn to d5, rook a c8, bishop to d3, knight d7, knight f1, f5, knight to g3. So this was a maneuver of knight. Then pawn to f4, knight f5, rook takes, pawn takes, and knight to f6. So here, as you can already see, that black has sacrificed an exchange, and in return he is going to get this pawn, obviously, because there is a lot of pressure over here, and also this weakness is there. There is a clear attack coming up. This knight, which is currently awkwardly placed, can come anytime on c4 and also can start targeting, have the good control towards the central line as well. So black is, you can say, exchange down, but is having a very solid position. Very difficult for white to break through, but still this position is equal because there is one hole that is there in the position, that is e6, that white can try to target, and if white is able to get over there, then it will be good for white. So this position you can play from white side, black side, both, especially good for the tactical players. Okay, so this was the Chigorin variation. Now let's go back and now let's look at the fourth variation, that is the Breyer variation. So here it starts with again e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5, a6, bishop a4, knight f6, castles, bishop e7, rook e1, b5, bishop b3, pawn d6, pawn to c3, castles by black, pawn h3, and here the move is knight to b8. Okay, so this is about the Breyer variation, and it is also like common at the higher levels. This is being played a lot. You can see what's the plan of the knight to b8. Here white goes with pawn d4, then now knight b d7, then knight b d2, bishop b7, bishop c2, rook e8, knight f1, bishop f8, knight g3, pawn g6, a4, pawn to c5, pawn d5, pawn to c4. So just closing the position. So this is a very closed position. This game will be very closed. So bishop g5, pawn to h6, just directly targeting the bishop. And again, this position is equal. If you like to play solid opening, so this variation is what you could go for. And again, there are all three results possible from this variation, good for both white and black. The position will remain closed for a lot of time. It could get little bit open up on the queen side here, but on king side it will be closed for a lot of time. Okay, so this was the fourth variation. Now let's go back and look at the last, that is the fifth variation, that is the Smyslov variation. So it starts with again e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5, a6, bishop a4, knight f6, castles, bishop e7, rook e1, pawn to b5, bishop b3, pawn d6, pawn c3, castles by black, h3, and again here again the move changes on the ninth move for black. So it starts with the move pawn to h6 for black. So black is, like you can say, already preparing to stop this move bishop to g5. So here white goes with pawn d4, rook e8, knight b d2, bishop f8, knight f1, bishop b7, knight g3, knight to a5, bishop c2, pawn c5, pawn b3, knight goes back on c6, then pawn d5, knight e7, bishop to e3, knight to g6, and queen to d2. And here, as you can see, again this position will also remain closed. So this is closed from both the sides now, from queen side, king side, central, everywhere it is closed. If you like to play positional games a lot, and if you are a solid player, so I would recommend you to go for this line. And it is this variation is Smyslov variation, is very nice, and again good for both the sides, white black, equal position it is. And all this variation that we have discussed are played at higher levels a lot. Hope you have enjoyed this video. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel for more such videos.